The science behind rebound relationships and why they usually fail. You know that gut punch feeling. One day, you're trying to pick up the pieces after a breakup, and the next you see them smiling in selfies with someone new. It's fast, it's jarring, it's confusing, and it leaves you with one haunting thought. Did I even matter? They moved on in what feels like minutes. You're stuck with tears and memories, and they're already playing happy couple with someone else. But here's what no one tells you. That quick switch isn't always healing, it's often hurting in disguise. Why do rebounds look so put together? Rebound relationships, from the outside, look exciting, passionate, even meant to be. But underneath the surface, most are built on emotional quicksand. It's not connection, it's distraction, not love, but a psychological escape hatch from discomfort, grief, and identity loss. Because let's be honest, sitting with heartbreak takes strength. Jumping into something new, that just takes Wi-Fi and a dating app. The rebound trap. What makes rebounds so seductive is that they seem to work at first. You feel desirable again, you're not alone, you get temporary validation, and most importantly, you don't have to feel the pain. But emotions don't evaporate just because you found someone new. They bury themselves deeper, only to explode later in the form of resentment, confusion, or emotional detachment. Rebounds feel good because your brain is wired that way. Your brain, desperate for relief, floods your system with dopamine, oxytocin, even adrenaline in a rebound. It feels like connection, but it's often just chemical distraction. And what feels like chemistry might just be two wounded people, trauma bonding in disguise. So in this video, we're going to break down the science behind why rebound relationships feel like the solution, but usually become the next problem. We'll explore what happens in the brain post-breakup, why rebounds usually collapse under emotional weight, the exact red flags that signal it's not real love, just emotional substitution, and finally what actually works if you want real healing and real connection. Ready to go deeper? Let's start with the foundation. What exactly is a rebound relationship? And how do you know when you're in one? Let's clear something up. Not every fast relationship after a breakup is a rebound, but honestly, many are. And knowing the difference can save you months, even years of emotional confusion. So what exactly is a rebound? At its core, a rebound relationship is one that starts before a person has emotionally processed their previous one. It's not about the timing alone, it's about emotional readiness. If someone jumps into something new without truly feeling the loss, reflecting on the past, or understanding their patterns, they're not building a new connection. They're building a coping mechanism. It's not love. It's an emotional band-aid. Rebounds aren't rooted in genuine intimacy. They're often a quick-fix reaction to avoid pain, fill a void, escape guilt or loneliness, or even prove to themselves, or their ex, that they're desirable. And while it might feel real in the beginning, the truth is, most rebound relationships are formed under emotional pressure, not emotional clarity. So, how do you actually identify a rebound relationship? Ask yourself these questions. Was there little to no gap between the breakup and the new relationship? Is one or both people still talking or obsessing about their ex? Does the relationship feel intense but hollow, like it's moving too fast emotionally? Is it more about being seen, shown off, or validated than truly getting to know each other? If you're nodding yes, chances are, it's a rebound. Here's a psychology checkpoint. According to research, rebounders often mistake distraction for progress. They confuse the high of novelty with the depth of connection. But once that high wears off, they're right back where they started, emotionally confused, incomplete, and unhealed. And worse, they've now dragged someone else into their unresolved story. So, remember, a rebound isn't defined by how soon you move on. It's defined by how honestly you've healed. If your heart is still tied to your past, you can't authentically build a future. Ever wondered why breakups hurt so badly? Or why some people seem to jump into something new overnight while you're still stuck replaying memories? The answer lies in your brain chemistry and attachment system. Love isn't just emotional, it's neurological. When you form a romantic connection, your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals, oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone and gets released especially during cuddling, sex, or emotional closeness. Dopamine, the reward chemical, triggered by validation, messages, and shared experiences. Serotonin, which helps with mood stability and emotional grounding, and endorphins, those natural painkillers and emotional soothers. Together, they build emotional attachment. It's literally a brain-based dependency. When a relationship ends, your brain doesn't just lose the person, it loses that entire neurochemical support system. It's kind of like your emotional system is going through withdrawal. You crave contact, you obsess, you replay what went wrong, not because you're weak, but because your brain is begging for another hit of oxytocin or dopamine. And guess what provides that quick hit? A new person. Rebound relationships offer fast access to those same feel-good chemicals. You get oxytocin from physical touch, dopamine from novelty and validation, adrenaline from secrecy or excitement, and a temporary sense of relief from emotional pain. It's like emotional morphine. You feel better, but honestly, you're not actually healing, you're just numbing. Not everyone rebounds the same way, and attachment theory explains why. People with anxious attachment, for example, fear abandonment. They often jump into rebounds fast to avoid being alone or forgotten. Folks with avoidant attachment detach quickly and may seem fine, but really, they're just suppressing emotions instead of processing them. For them, rebounds offer a safe, shallow connection they can control. Those with secure attachment, though, are more likely to take space, reflect and heal before entering anything new. So, rebounders are often either anxiously attaching to avoid pain or avoiding intimacy altogether. Suppressing grief by running into someone new may offer temporary relief, but it actually delays long-term healing. You bypass things like emotional integration, identity redefinition, and closure or meaning-making. You don't get over someone by replacing them. You get over them by returning to yourself. So while rebounds may feel good in the short term, science shows they rarely deliver lasting emotional fulfillment, because they're built on a brain that's still stuck in survival mode. Alright, so on the surface, rebound relationships can look totally magical. There's that fast connection, intense attraction, and sometimes it just feels like you've found a partner who gets you right away. But honestly, behind that initial rush, there's often a really fragile emotional foundation. And here's why most rebounds collapse once reality sets in. First up, emotional avoidance. Most rebounds begin not with clarity, but with avoidance. Instead of sitting with grief, processing the breakup, or, facing their own flaws, the rebounder just dives headfirst into someone new to escape their own pain. But pain avoided is pain delayed. Eventually those emotions they skipped come back, way louder, more confusing, and now tangled up with someone else. Next, projection and idealization. Rebounders often project qualities onto their new partner that they're just desperate to see, like, this person will treat me better, or, they're the opposite of my ex. Maybe even this will finally work. But that ideal version of the new partner usually crumbles as soon as the honeymoon glow fades, because it wasn't real, it was wishful thinking. Then there's unresolved grief. Grief doesn't just disappear because you start dating someone new. In fact, it often gets buried, then resurfaces in unexpected ways: sudden irritability, emotional numbness, comparing the new partner to the ex, or those moments of guilt, regret, or nostalgia. The rebound becomes emotionally inconsistent, loving one day, distant the next. That's not a sign of growth, it's actually a sign of unfinished healing. Now, validation seeking, let's be honest here. Many rebounds aren't about love, they're about proving you still matter. The rebounder may not even realize it, but deep down, they're seeking approval, attention, a sense of worth after rejection. It's less about building connection and more about rebuilding ego. But no one else can permanently fix your self-worth. And once you still got it feeling fades, so does the drive to stay. Finally, repeated relationship patterns. Without reflection, rebounders often repeat the same emotional habits from their past relationship, just with a new face. The conflict cycles return. The communication problems reappear. The same unmet needs resurface. Because while the person changed, the emotional wiring didn't. Different partner, same pain. So bottom line, rebounds usually fail because they're built on urgency, not understanding. On chemistry, not compatibility. On distraction, not development. If you skip the healing process, you end up bleeding on someone who didn't cut you. When someone jumps into a rebound, the chemistry often feels electric. There are late-night texts, constant attention, fast physical intimacy. They may even say things like, "This feels so much better than my last relationship," or "We just clicked instantly." Maybe even, "It's like we've known each other forever." But, honestly, fast chemistry doesn't mean lasting compatibility. Let's break down why the thrill fades so fast, and what never really got built in the first place. So the rebound high, it's all about instant gratification, not intimacy. Rebounds offer what the brain craves after lost novelty, which triggers dopamine, affection, which triggers oxytocin, and validation, which gives your ego a boost. This chemical cocktail creates a kind of relationship high, but it's not sustainable. What's missing is real connection, which actually takes time, vulnerability, shared values, conflict navigation, and mutual emotional maturity. Most rebounds just never get to that depth because honestly, they were designed to avoid depth from the start. Why does it feel so real? Until it doesn't. Rebounders often confuse intensity for intimacy, attention for care, possessiveness for love, and sexual chemistry for emotional connection. But when the thrill wears off, as it always does, they realize there's no real friendship foundation. Core life goals are misaligned, emotional needs are unmet, and the pain they ran from is still there, just waiting. Now, compatibility takes time. Here's what long-term love requires that rebounds usually skip: emotional safety. Can you show your full self without fear? Trust built over time, not just assumed after a few intense dates. Conflict resolution skills, not just chemistry but communication. And aligned visions for the future. Do your paths actually work together? Rebounds rarely pause long enough to ask these questions. They're just too busy feeling good in the moment, until the moment breaks. Eventually the cracks start to show. Communication issues arise. Insecurities resurface. Emotional inconsistency confuses the partner. The rebounder starts missing their ex. Or honestly, missing themselves. Or worse, they emotionally withdraw without explanation. That's when the illusion fades and the relationship begins to fall apart. So while a rebound might feel like the antidote to heartbreak, it's often just a pause button, not a path forward. And once the thrill is gone, the emotional mess still needs to be cleaned up, now with two people hurt instead of just one. Okay, so we've talked about the psychology and the emotional pitfalls of rebounds. But let's get into the hard data. What does actual research say about rebound relationships? Do they ever work? Or are they as unstable as they seem? The answer? It's complicated, but revealing. According to a study published in Personal Relationships Journal, rebound relationships tend to form within 2 months or less of a breakup, move into physical intimacy faster, use relationship declarations like "I love you" earlier, and report higher initial excitement, but lower long-term satisfaction. This suggests rebounds might be emotionally intense, but developmentally shallow. A 2013 study found that people in rebound relationships may report less distress in the short term, but their long-term emotional healing is delayed. Why? Because they suppress breakup emotions instead of processing them. Another research review from Psychological Science noted that suppression leads to increased emotional volatility, difficulty with future emotional regulation, and a tendency to repeat toxic relationship patterns. Rebound relationships have a significantly higher dissolution rate compared to those formed after a healthy emotional gap. Many dissolve within 3 to 6 months. Some end even sooner, especially when reality begins to surface. Those that last longer tend to come from people who entered the relationship with self-awareness and conscious intentions, not just avoidance. In other words, rebounds that do work are often not true rebounds. They're relationships that may start fast, but slow down and allow genuine emotional work to happen. Dr. Lisa Firestone, psychologist and author, says, when a person hasn't processed their loss, they bring that baggage into the next relationship, often unconsciously. Rebounds are rarely about who the new person is, and more about who the rebounder is trying not to be. Are there exceptions? Yes. There are always edge cases. Some rebound relationships turn into healthy partnerships. If both people are emotionally available, there's honest communication about past baggage, and the relationship moves from distraction to depth. But the key word there is rare. And those relationships require more self-work than most rebounds allow space for. So when we look at the data, the conclusion is clear. Rebounds may offer short-term comfort, but rarely long-term fulfillment. Next, let's answer the big question. Do rebounds ever work? And when they do, what makes them different? And when? Let's be honest, you've probably heard at least one story like this. My cousin started dating someone right after her breakup. And now they're married with 2 kids. And it makes you wonder, do rebounds actually work sometimes? Or are those rare exceptions just that? Rare? The truth? Yes. Some rebound relationships do work, but not for the reasons you might think. Let's break it down. The ones that fail are reactive, used to avoid emotional pain, driven by fear of being alone, based on idealization, not real compatibility, and fueled by infatuation and validation seeking. But the ones that work? They're usually not true rebounds at all. They're relationships that start quickly but shift into intentional, emotionally honest partnerships. Here are some signs a rebound might actually work. First, self-awareness. The person has reflected on their past, understands what went wrong, and isn't using the new person as a distraction. Second, transparent communication. They talk openly about their breakup, their emotional state, and why they're starting something new. Third, pacing the relationship. Even if it starts fast, they slow it down emotionally, allowing space for true connection to build. Fourth, no emotional triangulation. They're not constantly bringing up their ex, comparing or trying to prove anything. The focus is on this relationship, not the last one. And fifth, genuine compatibility. The new connection isn't just about comfort, it's about shared values, emotional safety, and a long-term vision. Some successful rebound relationships only appear to be rebounds from the outside. They move quickly, yes, but inside, there's clarity, there's maturity, there's intention. These are usually people who did some emotional processing before the prior relationship ended, or had already begun detaching emotionally long before the breakup occurred. They're not rebounding, they're readying. In the end, it's not about timing, it's about emotional integrity. Have you grieved the past relationship? Have you taken responsibility for your patterns? Do you know why you want this new connection? Can you be present without projecting? If the answers are yes, you may be ready to love again, genuinely, deeply, and sustainably. If not, you may be setting yourself and someone else up for another heartbreak. If you found yourself repeating rebound patterns, you're not broken, you're human. We live in a culture that celebrates moving on fast, posting happy photos, getting back out there, proving we're fine. But here's the truth, healing isn't linear. And love doesn't reward speed, it rewards self-honesty. So how do you stop the cycle and prepare for something real? Start with compassion. What did the last relationship teach you? What pain are you carrying from childhood or past breakups? What emotional needs did you outsource to your ex that now feel unbearable without them? This isn't about blame, it's about emotional ownership. What patterns am I repeating? And what am I running from? Grieving feels uncomfortable, but it's the portal to freedom. You can't fully love someone new while your heart is still entangled in unresolved feelings for someone else. Allow yourself to cry, journal, sit with sadness, talk to a therapist, and avoid jumping into situationships just to feel seen. Grief is love with nowhere to go. Let it move through you, not around you. Rebounders often leap because they can't tolerate the silence. Loneliness, guilt, boredom, fear of irrelevance, social pressure to move on. Name those triggers. When they show up, pause, don't react. Learning to sit with discomfort is emotional strength. After a breakup, there's a hole, not just where the person was, but where your identity was attached to them. Ask, who am I when I'm not a partner? What do I love outside of relationships? What kind of life am I creating with or without someone else? The more complete you feel on your own, the less you'll reach for someone to complete you. Know what you want before you date again. Emotional availability, shared life values, conflict skills, maturity, not just attraction, and a willingness to grow together. Don't chase intensity, build intention. Here's your challenge. Stay single until you want love, not until you need relief. When you enter your next relationship by choice instead of emotional urgency, you'll notice the difference immediately. More peace, more clarity, fewer games, deeper connection. You don't heal from heartbreak by avoiding it. You heal by going through it and coming out the other side wiser, softer, and stronger. Real love begins when you stop chasing escape and start choosing wholeness. If you've ever jumped into a rebound, if you've ever tried to outrun your pain with passion, if you've ever convinced yourself that this time would be different, you're not weak, you're not broken, you're just human. But here's what life teaches us. Sometimes the hard way, you can't fast forward healing. You can't replace grief with attention. And you definitely can't build real love on the foundation of unresolved hurt. If you're watching this, and you're in that place, maybe freshly out of something, maybe hurting silently, maybe wondering if they ever really cared, take a breath. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to rush. In fact, the most powerful thing you can do right now is sit still, feel it fully, and decide, I will not build the next chapter of my life on broken pieces. Love that lasts starts with self-honesty, with the courage to be alone long enough to hear your own voice again. You are not too late, you are not too much, and you are absolutely worthy of something real. But real love begins where rebounds end, at the intersection of truth, healing, and readiness. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe and like this video for more psychology-backed relationship truths. Your next chapter? it starts with you.